The year was 1987 and a man moved into apartment 9B in a rundown, creaky old building downtown. The rent was cheap, the location was perfect, and the apartment was spacious, if a little outdated. But as the weeks went on, he began to notice strange things happening around him. At first it was just strange noises echoing through the thin walls of the apartment building. Scratching sounds in the night, hushed whispers, and the occasional dragging footstep when no one else was home. The lights would flicker, and he'd catch a glimpse of a shadowy figure in the corner of his eye. Just a shadow, always just out of sight. He tried to shake it off, tried to convince himself there was a logical explanation for what he was seeing and hearing. But when he mentioned it to his nosy neighbor, Mrs. Periwinkle, she abruptly changed the subject, clearly rattled by the mention of 9B. Determined to get to the bottom of this, he scoured the apartment building's basement for old newspaper clippings, hoping to find an explanation for the strange occurrences in 9B. And what he found was a story from over 20 years ago, about a tenant in apartment 9B who had disappeared without a trace. The police suspected foul play, but despite an extensive search, his body was never recovered, and the case went cold. Local lore had it that his ghost never left. Was he the ghost haunting 9B? Was that why the apartment had remained empty for all these years? And why did everyone seem so afraid to talk about it? As the days passed, more strange things began to happen. Objects would move on their own, seemingly of their own volition. The shadow he'd seen at first in the corner of his eye became bolder, appearing in the reflections of windows and dark corners of the room. At night, his sleep was plagued by nightmares of being watched, of unseen eyes boring into his back, of footsteps dragging metal moans in the darkness. He knew he had to confront whatever was haunting him, and he wasn't going to do it alone. So he called the only person he could think of, Mrs. Periwinkle, the nosy neighbor from downstairs. And then one night, just as he was about to give up hope, she came. She stood with him in the darkness of apartment 9B, and together they confronted the shadow. "Leave me alone," he demanded, his voice echoing in the vast emptiness of the room. And then the shadow coalesced, taking on a man's hunched-over form. "I can't," he rasped, his voice like dry leaves skittering across pavement. "I'm trapped between worlds, unable to find peace." The apparition explained that he'd been murdered in that very apartment, his killer never found, his body never recovered, and now he was stuck between worlds, unable to move on. The tenant felt a pang of sympathy, but he also felt fear, a primal, ancient fear that clawed at his throat, constricting him, stealing his breath. Then, as if sensing the fear, the apparition lunged, merging with the living tenant, seeping into him, becoming him. And the last thing he saw before the darkness consumed him was the shadow of his own form retreating back into the corner of the room. He tried to scream, tried to claw his way out, but no sound came out. His hands, they were stuck. His whole body stuck, trapped forever in 9B. He was the new missing tenant, the new ghost that would haunt this apartment forever.